Before the war in Ukraine began, Russia's air force was feared across the world. It had thousands of aircraft, fighter jets, bombers, attack helicopters, electronic warfare planes. NATO planners spent decades running simulations to prepare for it. But 2 years into the war, something went terribly wrong for Russia. The planes that were supposed to dominate the skies over Ukraine are being shot down, grounded, and destroyed on the ground. And the numbers tell a story that Russia desperately doesn't want the world to see. Today, we're going to show you exactly what's happening to Russia's Air Force and why it may never recover. To understand what's happening today, you have to go back to what Russia told the world it had. Before February 2022, Russia officially listed over 2,500 combat aircraft in its Air Force, the VKS. This included the Su-34 strike fighter, the Su-35 air superiority jet, the fearsome MiG-31 interceptor, and even the much-hyped Su-57, Russia's answer to the American F-22. On paper, it looked like one of the most powerful air forces in history, but here's what nobody was saying publicly at the time. A huge portion of those aircraft were not operational. Russian defense analysts, even those inside Russia, privately acknowledged that up to 40% of the listed fleet could not fly on any given day. Why? Because of a problem that had plagued the Russian military for decades: corruption, poor maintenance, and a severe shortage of spare parts. Funds meant for aircraft maintenance were routinely siphoned off. Engines went unserviced, avionics went unupdated, and pilots, crucially, were not getting enough flying hours to stay sharp. In the U.S. Air Force, a combat pilot flies roughly 200 hours per year. In the Russian Air Force before 2022, many pilots were flying fewer than 100. Some reports put the number as low as 60 to 80 hours a year. That's not a combat-ready Air Force. That's a display Air Force. And when the real test came, over Ukraine, the cracks became craters. When Russia launched its full-scale invasion on February 24, 2022, the world expected its Air Force to do what Air Forces do in modern wars: establish air superiority within the first 48 to 72 hours. Clear the skies, destroy Ukraine's air defenses, and open the door for ground forces to advance. It didn't happen. Ukraine's Air Force, flying aging Soviet jets, was not destroyed on day one. Ukraine's air defense network, a patchwork of Soviet-era S-300s, Buk systems, and manned portable missiles, was not crushed. Russia had planned for a quick victory, a blitzkrieg. Instead, it flew its jets into the most dangerous airspace in the world and paid a devastating price. In the first 30 days of the war, Ukraine shot down or destroyed over 50 Russian aircraft, Su-25 attack jets, Su-34 strike fighters, even the advanced Su-35. In some cases, Russian pilots were flying at dangerously low altitudes, trying to stay below Ukrainian radar, and flying directly into the range of shoulder-fired missiles. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. And here's the part that shocked Western analysts the most: Russia was not using precision-guided munitions at the scale everyone expected. Instead of smart bombs, they were dropping unguided dumb bombs from Soviet-era stockpiles. Why? Because Russia didn't have enough precision weapons to sustain a long campaign. The corruption and mismanagement hadn't just broken the Air Force, it had hollowed out the entire military-industrial machine. Tracking Russia's aircraft losses in this war has become something of a global effort. One of the most respected sources is Oryx, an open-source intelligence group that only counts losses when they can visually confirm them with photos or videos. As of early 2026, Oryx has confirmed the destruction of over 350 Russian fixed-wing aircraft and helicopters. That's a confirmed number. The real figure is almost certainly higher. But it's not just the total number that's alarming, it's the rate. Russia has been losing aircraft at a pace that is simply unsustainable. In 2024 alone, Russian losses of fixed-wing aircraft accelerated, largely because of one weapon Ukraine received from its Western allies: long-range precision missile systems. Ukraine used these missiles to strike Russian air bases directly. In several high-profile strikes, Ukraine hit aircraft that Russia thought were safe, parked deep behind the front lines. At Belbek Air Base in Russian-occupied Crimea, a Ukrainian ATACMS strike destroyed multiple Su-27 fighters on the ground. Russia had been keeping those planes at what it believed was a safe distance. It wasn't. And here's what makes those ground strikes even more devastating. Russia had been parking its aircraft in the open, without protective hardened shelters, because it never believed Ukraine could reach them. That arrogance cost them irreplaceable aircraft. Now, here's the critical question. Can Russia simply build new aircraft to replace the ones it's losing? The honest answer is not fast enough. Russia's primary fighter production facility, the Komsomolsk-on-Amur plant in Siberia, was producing approximately 20 to 30 Su-35s per year before the war. Since the war began, the plant has reportedly increased production. But increased is relative. Western sanctions have cut off Russia's access to Western microelectronics, the semiconductors that modern avionics depend on. When Western analysts examined recovered Russian weapons in Ukraine, they found something remarkable. Inside Russian cruise missiles, drones, and targeting systems, they found American, European, and Japanese microchips. Not because Russia was buying them legally, but because Russia had spent years building supply chains to smuggle them in. Those supply chains have been systematically disrupted since 2022. The result? Russian weapons factories have had to scavenge civilian electronics, microchips from washing machines and refrigerators to keep production going. That's not a joke. It was corroborated by Ukrainian battlefield recoveries and confirmed by multiple Western intelligence agencies. So while Russia is trying to speed up production, it cannot produce sophisticated modern aircraft at the rate it's losing them. The Su-57, Russia's most advanced fighter, is being built at a rate of roughly 6 to 10 per year. That's not a meaningful number in a war of this scale. Russia is consuming its air force faster than it can replace it. The aircraft losses are visible. You can count them. But there's another crisis that's much harder to see, and in some ways more serious. Russia is running out of experienced combat pilots. Training a combat-ready fighter pilot takes 7 to 10 years. You cannot replace one in a month, or a year, or even several years. And Russia has been losing pilots at a rate that its training pipeline simply cannot keep up with. Many of Russia's most experienced pilots, the instructors, the test pilots, the veterans with thousands of flight hours, have been killed, captured, or are now flying extremely carefully to avoid becoming the next casualty. That last point matters. Several Western analysts have noted that Russian pilots have become significantly more risk-averse. Instead of pressing forward to strike targets, many Russian aircraft are now releasing weapons from extreme standoff distances, far from the front lines, and immediately retreating. They're not doing that because it's tactically optimal. They're doing it because they're afraid. An air force whose pilots are afraid to enter contested airspace is not an air force that can win a war. So what does all of this mean for the bigger picture? Russia entered this war expecting to dominate the air. Instead, it has been forced to adapt, relying on glide bombs released from safe distances, drones, and long-range missiles to strike Ukraine. But those adaptations have limits. Ukraine continues to receive more advanced air defense systems from the West. And with every Russian aircraft that is shot down or destroyed on the ground, Russia's ability to threaten its neighbors, not just Ukraine, but the entire NATO eastern flank, is being permanently degraded. This isn't just about this war. The Russian Air Force that emerges from this conflict will be a fraction of what it was. It will take 15, perhaps 20 years, and hundreds of billions of dollars to even approach its pre-war capability. And that assumes Russia gets sanctions relief, political stability, and an uninterrupted industrial recovery. None of those things are guaranteed. Russia's Air Force was supposed to be one of the great powers of the modern world. Instead, it is being slowly dismantled, aircraft by aircraft, pilot by pilot, over the skies of Ukraine. And the proof isn't coming from Western governments or propaganda. It's coming from drone footage, satellite images, and the battlefield itself. If you found this video valuable, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next breakdown, because there's a lot more happening out there that the news isn't telling you. We'll take you beyond